sun burned low over the canyon, painting the red rocks with fire. The Comanche leader, wounded and left among the stones, barely breathed. His horse was gone, his tribe scattered after the ambush. Buzzards circled overhead, waiting. He closed his eyes, ready for the Great Spirit to take him. But faint footsteps echoed above, the sound of small, cautious feet. Through the heat haze came a little girl, no older than 10, her dress torn, hair tangled with dust. She knelt beside him, whispering, "You're still alive." Her tiny hands trembled, yet she pressed a cloth to his bleeding side. The warrior opened his eyes with effort, confusion clouding them. He expected death, not mercy. The girl's face was pale, but her gaze steady. She poured a few drops of water from a tin cup into his mouth. "Drink," she said softly. The water tasted like life itself. He wanted to ask who she was, why she wasn't afraid, but his voice was gone. She looked around nervously, as though fearing someone might come. Then she whispered, "They said all of you were bad men, but I don't think that's true." Her innocence struck deeper than any bullet. As night crept in, shadows danced across the canyon walls. The girl built a small fire, shielding it with stones to keep the light hidden. The Comanche leader watched her silently, amazed at her courage. Her small fingers moved with determination, like someone used to surviving alone. He wanted to help, but his wounds chained him to the ground. The stars appeared, bright and endless. She tore a strip from her dress and cleaned his wound again. "My name's Clara," she murmured. "My mama used to tell stories about brave warriors. I think you're one of them." The man's breathing steadied through the night. Memories of battle flashed before him. Gunfire, smoke, the cries of his brothers. He remembered falling, seeing the enemy ride off, believing the canyon would be his grave. Now this fragile child kept him alive. At dawn, Clara brought him berries and water from a stream below. "You need food," she insisted. He nodded faintly.
"Why, help me?"
He finally rasped. She smiled sadly. "'Cause you looked lost, and I don't like seeing people left behind." Her words carried a wisdom far beyond her years. He couldn't remember anyone showing him such kindness. Days passed slowly. Clara stayed hidden with him, tending his wounds and sharing what little she found. The Comanche leader learned to move again, his strength returning bit by bit. When he asked about her family, she hesitated. "They're gone," she said. "Raiders took our wagon. I ran." He saw the truth in her eyes. She had no one. In her, he saw not an enemy's child, but a spirit of pure heart. "You are brave, little one," he told her. She blushed, trying to hide her smile. "So are you," she whispered, as wind carried their quiet voices through the canyon. One morning, the sound of distant hooves thundered across the cliffs. Clara's eyes widened. "They're coming back!" she cried. The Comanche leader pulled himself upright despite his pain. He recognized the rhythm. It wasn't his tribe. It was the same white raiders who'd ambushed him. "Hide behind those rocks," he ordered. She refused. "I won't leave you." He gritted his teeth, grabbed his bow, and notched an arrow with trembling hands. As the riders appeared, dust rising around them, Clara held her breath. The leader's eyes hardened again, not with hatred, but with the will to protect the child who'd saved him. The ambushers rode closer, laughing, unaware death waited among the stones. The leader loosed his first arrow. One rider fell instantly. The others shouted, drawing their guns. Clara ducked as bullets cracked through the air. "Stay down," he commanded, loosing another arrow. Pain seared through his shoulder, but he didn't stop. The raiders retreated, not expecting resistance. When silence returned, smoke and dust filled the air. Clara crawled to him, tears on her cheeks. "You're bleeding again," she cried. He smiled faintly, his voice rough. "Better me than you, little one. The Great Spirit gave me a reason to fight again." After the attack, the canyon grew peaceful once more. Clara bandaged his wounds, her hands steady despite the fear still in her heart. "Will they come back?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not soon." She looked up at him with admiration. "You saved me." He smiled, a rare, gentle expression. "No, you saved me first." They shared a silence filled with warmth deeper than words. In that stillness, two souls from different worlds found family in each other. He taught her how to track prints, how to listen to the wind, how to be brave without anger. Weeks passed. The leader could finally walk again, though a limp remained. One morning, he led Clara to the ridge overlooking the plains. Smoke rose far away, his tribe's signal fire. His heart swelled. "My people," he said quietly. Clara smiled, though sadness flickered in her eyes. You'll go home. He knelt beside her. You could come too. You'd be safe. She shook her head. I have to find what's left of my own family. He placed a hand over her heart. Then may the spirits guide your path. Tears welled as they shared one last embrace beneath the rising sun. When the Comanche leader finally returned to his people, they saw the change in him. He spoke of the little girl who climbed through fire and stone to save a dying man. She had the courage of a warrior and the heart of an angel, he said. Every night after, he lit a small fire facing the east, his way of guiding her through the darkness wherever she roamed. And sometimes, far across the plains, a small spark answered back, proof that the bond between them, born in pain and courage. Would you like me to make a 1,500-word extended version, 15 paragraphs next, continuing Clara's journey after they part? Clara watched the Comanche leader ride into the horizon, his horse kicking up a trail of dust that shimmered under the sun. The wind whispered across the canyon, carrying his final words, "May the spirits guide you." She stood there long after he vanished, clutching the small pendant he'd left her, a carved feather of bone. It wasn't just a gift. It was protection. With trembling hands, she slipped it around her neck and turned toward the open plains. Her journey wasn't over. Somewhere out there, her family, or what remained of it, might still be waiting for her. Days turned into weeks as Clara wandered through the wilderness. She followed the rivers, lived off berries and roots, and slept beneath the wide, endless sky. Sometimes she'd see riders far in the distance and hide behind rocks, remembering the raiders' cruelty. Other times she'd whisper to the wind, "Watch over me," believing the warrior spirit was near. One night, while camped under a mesquite tree, she dreamt of the Comanche leader standing proud again, healed and strong, watching her with a calm smile. When she awoke, she felt his strength inside her, like a fire that would never fade. Her path led her to an abandoned trading post by a dry riverbed. Inside she found the ruins of what once was, a burned wagon, a broken sign, and silence. She was about to leave when a weak cry reached her ears. Following the sound, she discovered a small boy, no older than 6, trapped beneath a fallen beam. Clara rushed to him, heaving with all her might until the wood shifted. The boy coughed, blinking at her. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. "I'm Clara," he whispered. "Sam." And with that, her lonely road gained a new purpose. Together, Clara and Sam searched the remains for food and water. They found an old canteen half full and a sack of beans, enough for a few days. Sam's parents, she learned, had been attacked on the trail. He'd hidden in fear until the danger passed. "You saved me," he said shyly. Clara smiled. "Someone once saved me too." That night, as the firelight flickered, she told him about the Comanche leader, the warrior who refused to die, and the little girl who refused to give up. Sam listened wide-eyed, asking, "Do you think he's still out there?" She nodded. "I know he is." When morning came, they set off west toward the nearest town, following wagon ruts in the dirt. The land stretched for miles, silent except for the wind and their footsteps. Clara felt stronger now, every step echoing with the lessons she'd learned. She taught Sam how to listen for danger, how to hide his fear, how to keep hope alive even when the world felt cruel. He reminded her of herself, small, brave, and far from home. One night he asked, "Are we family now?" She looked at him gently and said, "We are, as long as we stay together." After many days, they reached a small frontier town, dusty, quiet, but alive. The townsfolk stared at the 2 ragged children walking down the main street. A kind woman named Mrs. Rollins took them in, offering warm soup and shelter. "Where are your parents?" she asked softly. Clara hesitated. "Gone." The woman's eyes filled with sympathy. "You're safe here." For the first time in months, Clara slept on a real bed. Yet as she lay there, she couldn't help but glance at the window, half expecting to see the Comanche leader's shadow under the moonlight, guarding her from afar. Spring arrived, painting the plains with wildflowers. Clara helped around the Rollins farm while Sam chased chickens and laughed again. Life began to feel normal, almost. But one evening, a group of riders arrived in town. Among them was a tall, scarred man wearing a badge, a U.S. Marshal. He carried news that made her blood run cold. "We found traces of Comanche along the North Ridge," he said. "Looks like they're rebuilding their camp." The word Comanche stirred something fierce inside her. That night, she walked alone to the ridge, staring into the dark horizon. She had to know if he was still alive. At dawn, she saddled one of Mrs. Rollins' horses and rode out quietly. Sam tried to stop her. "Where are you going?" he cried. Clara smiled sadly. To say goodbye for real this time. The journey took 2 days. When she reached the high plateau overlooking the valley, smoke rose in the distance, the Comanche camp. She hid behind the rocks, watching. Then she saw him. The leader stood tall among his people, scar shining under the sun, strong again. Her heart swelled. She wanted to run to him to shout, but she stayed hidden, knowing he belonged here now. As she turned to leave, a whisper carried on the wind, a sound so faint it might have been her imagination. "Clara," she froze. The warrior was standing on the ridge looking right at her. He had seen her after all. They met halfway, neither needing words. He studied her face, seeing the strength she'd grown into. "You kept your promise," he said softly. "You survived." Tears welled in her eyes. "You too." He placed a hand on her shoulder and smiled. The spirits were kind. Then, after a long silence, he said, "Go live free, little sister of the plains." Clara rode back toward the town with the sunrise behind her and peace in her heart. The feather pendant glowed faintly against her chest, warmed by the morning light. She had found her strength, her purpose, and her family, one by blood, one by bond. Somewhere beyond the ridges, a fire burned, signaling friendship between two worlds once divided, and though their paths had parted, the Comanche leader and the little girl would forever share the same sky. The vast, untamed sky of the frontier that had tested them, healed them, and made them both legends of the canyon.